Namaste.
Namaste. Welcome to another episode of Mahabharata Analysis. It's always interesting and it's a pleasure to talk about the Mahabharata because as the name says, it's like Maha. It's so huge, vast and deep as well. That there is a message for everybody in the Mahabharata.
And when we say Bharata first, it is useful to understand it in the light of modernity. And that's where, generally, for most people, they are introduced to, in the modern educational process, they are introduced to a value-neutral framework, in terms of science education. When one studies modern, sciences like maths, physics, chemistry, biology, even arts and social sciences, somehow what emerges is that value neutrality of everything. It is impersonal at best. And impersonality, impersonal, when we say impersonal, it has a distance. It is just objective. But then in human society, we clearly see that values play a very important role. All of us are living, emoting, thinking, feeling beings in a society, interacting with each other, having relationships with each other. And that's where it is all about values. And when we say values, there is in an impersonal environment, everything is equidistant. Every aspect is just an object which is equidistant from oneself. It is almost like the stars in the sky at night. When we look at the stars, at night, we see a single dome on which stars are studded. That is the orientation that value neutrality gives us. But then we live in a society which is not just value neutral. It is like being in the midst of the stars. When we go to the space, we are going to see distances amongst stars. So that emerges in the sense of when we see society, there are distances. It's not all equidistant, and hence there is a sense of values, value-based approaches. And value means certain things are prioritized and certain things are not prioritized. Certain things are closer to us and certain things, certain people are farther away from us. This can be seen in regular human experience. And that's where a clear identity provides us with that, clear framework where there is clear actionating. And what do we actionate on? That which is closer to us in terms of priority. And that is what is beautifully captured in the term Bharata first. Because there is a first, and that is in terms of priorities. In regular life, that's how it works. Though in school and college education, it would be more impersonal, which would be descriptive. But in regular life, when we actionate, it's all about priorities. And that's where what should hold our priority. And that is the idea of Bharata first. When it is Bharata first, then that provides us with a clear identity and a platform for decisive action. And to be able to act decisively, we need to draw upon deeper knowledge resources. Because when we are just filled with ideas, then everything seems fine. But when we need to actionate very concretely, then we are faced with unique challenges. These are called Dharma Sankata. Dharma Sankata can be roughly looked at as ethical dilemma, but it's not just ethical dilemma. It's much more nuanced if we can look at it that way. And that's where Mahabharata is replete with Dharma Sankata. So many Sankatas, everything is a Sankata. And Sankata is something that is very easily relatable by someone who wishes to live a certain way, live with a clear identity, live for a cause, live for principles, and so on. So that is the context for analyzing the Mahabharata in Bharata First.
And when we look at the central message of the Mahabharata, it says that Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. Dharma protects those who protect Dharma. And the entire Mahabharata is filled with situations where there is Dharma, there is Adharma, and not so much in black and white, at least to a novice reader or to a person who is new to the Mahabharata. It all looks not black and white, but a lot of gray areas. And one is not sure which is Dharma and which is Adharma. But on a deeper reading of the Mahabharata, one can understand that life presents so many situations where we ourselves are not able to make certain decisions. And each decision has a certain consequence as well. If we do a certain thing, there is always a consequence of it, karma and karma phala, or the fruit of it, right? Whatever action we do bears fruits. Similarly, if you look at the Mahabharata, in order to gain perspective of what is dharma and adharma, the entire perspective of a person or entire perspective of an incident has to be taken into account. Not cherry picking or not only focusing on specific aspects of a particular incident. Then we start getting this question, did he do right? Did she do right? And all that. But when you look at the person, when you look at the personality, when you look at the qualities of that person, the various life circumstances that they went through, as mentioned in the Mahabharata, then we get a full perspective of that situation. And then we are able to make out that, okay, this is right and this is wrong and this is how it is relevant to my life. Nevertheless, you don't really get a clear-cut answer. That it requires a lot of practice. And keeping the Bhagavad Gita within the Mahabharata is such a wonderful thing, because it also presents transcendental spiritual possibilities as well, not just getting caught in ethical dilemmas or dharma sankatas, but going beyond those confusions as well. And you would see that there are so many incidents like that. Many young people have this question whenever we say, we have children at the ashram. And we were asking them, who is the greatest archer and who is the greatest student of Dronacharya? There was one camp that said Arjuna is the greatest student. There was one camp that said Ekalavya is the greatest student. And of course, for all of us, both of them are favorite students. One who had the good fortune of being with the Guru and learning. The other person who had accepted Dronacharya as a Manasika Guru and excelled greatly. But however, there are nuanced differences in their approach to dharma, and especially Kshatriya dharma, which we would highlight.
So that's where when we say Kshatriya, we have seen in the Indian texts, society. In the modern context as well, we encounter society being organized along multiple lines. Now, society is a group of individuals, let's say. If we look at the world over, so many different kinds of social organizations emerge. So, society being organized along certain lines, maybe economic lines. So, one kind of organizing society, the individuals in society, is along economic lines, where there would be economic classes. So middle class, upper, rich class or upper middle class, lower middle class, lower class in terms of or below the poverty line. This is a way of organizing society or the members in a society along economic lines. Likewise, there can be organizing of society based on knowledge. Those who are graduates, those who are sciences, scientists, those who are not graduate, those who are literate, those who are not literate, and so on. In the Indian system, the societal organization is primarily to do with functionality. Functionality is called karma. Karma means that which you actionate upon. And karma definitely has consequences, karma phala. This is a very broad way of organization, because what goes into determining the functionality. So to be able to, for example, to be able to function as a teacher, I would need to invest in gaining knowledge over a period of time. And I would also have to develop the capacity to teach, to be able to be effective in that role as a teacher. If I need to be a doctor, then I would need to spend time in gaining knowledge and develop the skill and the ability to be able to administer or doctor people. If I need to be a farmer, then I need to develop the capability to actually farm. And for any of these, if you see, there is the function, there is the action towards a specific objective. And that is what society expects from that individual who professes that particular functionality in society, and thereby contributing to the larger scheme of society. So the Indian society from ancient times was organized along these lines of functionality. And functionality means concrete. It's not just an idea. So you cannot one day think, okay, I'm going to be a doctor today and immediately pick up the skill. No? Or tomorrow I'm going to be an engineer and pick up that skill. In fact, in some movies, it's been beautifully captured how individuals go through so much confusion when they are young, where one day they would want to be like this. Another day they would be talking some other different profession. A third day, another profession, and so on. You cannot jump like this, because you are held accountable for the identity that you hold, to the functionality that you hold. So that's where it's not just ideational. It is to do with concrete functionality, karma and karma phala. There are consequences attached to that functionality. So, and function means background samskaras, background processes, background capabilities that one has invested time and grown to that role. So that's where the varna ashrama dharma comes in. Varna is a broad classification based on functionality. And that's where when we say kshatriya dharma, kshatra means to protect. So those who invest their time, energy, and everything in growing in capability to be able to protect people and protect dharma. So when this is understood, then one clearly sees, and this would mean rigorous training. For example, if we take Mahabharata, a typical kshatriya, it will be a grueling schedule where one would need to invest so much time in being fit, fighting fit, to be able to perform their role or function in that manner. So Arjuna is trained to perform that role, and Ekalavya trains himself to perform that role. And both of them profess their guru to be Guru Dronacharya. And there is there are, as Smrithi pointed out, there are many, it's very highly nuanced, where Arjuna excels in many great qualities as a disciple of Guru Dronacharya. For example, he is well known for perfect concentration. And it's complete focused attention on one specific task. Now, if we look at the neurocognitive basis of such a thing, you would understand that enables you to decisively act when you need to act. When the time comes to act, you have no indecisiveness. Now, many of us suffer from that indecisive spirit, where when it is time to act, before it's time to act, we think, okay, I can do it. I'll do it. Let's do it. When it is time to act, we start having hesitations. Now, that indecision can have disastrous consequences for a kshatriya. So Arjuna is known as a foremost, kshatriya. One of the qualities is, this lack of indecisiveness. But in Bhagavad Gita, we clearly see even such a trained, well-trained person like Arjuna, gets that indecisiveness. And similarly, he is also known for Guru Bhakti. All the time, his awareness would be centered not on his own self, not on the ahankara, where generally we are always filled with a sense of, I, me and mine. But his awareness would be centered on his Guru, all through his learning days. So these all are beautifully illustrated and captured in the Mahabharata. He would spend day and night. He was known for Parakrama and Vikrama. So Vikrama means, putting in an effortless effort. Some of us put in effort, it would be visible to the world. Arjuna would put in effort day and night, but it would not be visible to the world. It would, only the end result would be visible. Like this, he had many exceptional qualities. Similarly, if we look at Ekalavya, he had many exceptional qualities. So he was not accepted as a student by Guru Dronacharya for Guru Dronacharya's own reasoning. Because you can imagine, with thousands of students, Guru Dronacharya would be something like a vice chancellor or a chancellor of a university. Now, if you walk into an institution, let's say you want to study at IIT, and you walk into an IIT and meet the director of the IIT and ask him or her, hey, I want to study in your institution. Now, the director of the institution would respond that, okay, there are certain qualificatory measures, you would need to go through it. Even then, the decision rests with the authority. So that freedom is given to that authority, because there is a due process to it. One cannot question that, because then the whole framework, becomes destabilized. So Guru Dronacharya had the authority to accept or reject a student. He had accepted many students. He had rejected many students. So this is clearly shown in the Mahabharata. So Ekalavya, he rejected along certain lines. He rejected his studentship. But Ekalavya's greatness was he did not, lose heart. He went back, created an image of Guru Dronacharya with tremendous Guru Bhakti. He did not need a physical teacher. With just that intuition connected to the Guru, he trained himself and he became an expert archer, expert at weapons. Such a superlative, so you can imagine, without a teacher, he was so self-disciplined. Many of us need someone else to discipline us, especially in our younger days, where, our image of ourselves is molded by an external authority. So imagine living in the forest, such exceptional discipline that he did not need an external teacher. He could connect from within to this teacher, Guru Dronacharya, in the form of, an idol. So that is a very exceptional quality. It's not very easy to find. Similarly, was his Guru Bhakti. So for many of us, even if there is a live teacher, it's very difficult to gain what is called Shraddha. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's been beautifully stated, Shraddhavan labate jnanam. That means one who possesses Shraddha gains knowledge. But then, let's say a teacher introduces us to quantum physics. And hearing that, one might feel, is this all true? Come on. We don't see quantum, reality. All that we see is this Newtonian reality, let's say. So that's where we first have a tentative, understanding, and we are willing to wait till we grow in experience and mature to be able to realize what our teachers say. So this process in the Indian tradition is captured in terms of, a paroksha anubhuti to aparoksha anubhuti. That means paroksha means we are gaining experience or jnana through the eyes of the teacher. And we start there, we don't stop there, we don't end there. We put in effort till we gain aparoksha jnana or aparoksha anubhuti, where we are not no longer dependent on the teacher's knowledge or experience to gain our own knowledge or experience. We have moved from that point to a point where the knowledge that the teacher has been trying to explain has become visible to us. That is the effort involved. Now, even if with a physical teacher, it's very difficult to accomplish. You can imagine with just a mental idea, Ekalavya was able to accomplish greatness in weapons training. So, exceptional qualities that he has. But then, there is a beautiful episode that illustrates Guru Dronacharya, how he viewed it or how he approached it. So it is said in the Mahabharata that once Guru Dronacharya, took many of his shishyas, his students, to the forest. And there, the hunting dog that they had went ahead, and when it returned back, they found that it was a very cruel sight, where its mouth was expertly stitched by 7 arrows. This was a gruesome sight, but this was also a very surprising act, because this needed a level of precision in weapons, which is not very easy to accomplish. And such a level of precision would make a person great. They would be visible to the world around them. But Guru Dronacharya had not heard of such a person. So, they wanted to find out, and they found Ekalavya with the murti of Guru Dronacharya. So, on being quizzed, he revealed that his guru is none other than Guru Dronacharya. And this was very startling to everybody, and especially to Arjuna as well, because this kind of archery Arjuna had still not yet accomplished. So Guru Dronacharya had committed to Arjuna, seeing his exceptional qualities. He had committed to him to make him the best archer in the world. And this was almost like going against his words, because this Ekalavya, who nobody knows, is professing Guru Dronacharya to be his teacher. And hence, this creates a doubt in Arjuna's mind. But not so much, because anyhow he has firm faith in his teacher. This is generally highlighted in everybody's understanding or analysis. But what is more critical is where Guru Dronacharya actually asks for the thumb, the right hand thumb, the right thumb of Ekalavya as Guru Dakshina. Now, Guru Dakshina is a concept where it need not be monetary. For the education that you have received, for the knowledge that you have received, it is appropriate compensation. The compensation, for example, in ashrams, the compensation could even be flowers and fruits, which is offered. We hear about it, for example, in Prashnopanishad. So in Prashnopanishad, the Guru Pipalada gives knowledge to his students, and the students finally offer him flowers for the divine knowledge that has been revealed. So it is appropriate compensation. That is the idea of Guru Dakshina. And as Guru Dakshina from Ekalavya, Guru Dronacharya demands the right thumb. And this is generally interpreted as just his commitment to Arjuna, to keep up his word to Arjuna. And this is also found as problematic because this is discriminating against Ekalavya. But elsewhere, Guru Dronacharya's logic becomes visible, where a teacher is supposed to empower the right student and is supposed to disempower the not so right student. So that is a teacher's role. And what is meant by empowering? Giving knowledge, skills, and all of that. But where it's discovered that the student can use it inappropriately, can use the knowledge in harmful ways that harms society, then the teacher has the right to disempower such a student. That is clearly indicated. And that's where Guru Dronacharya finds that, as part of Kshatriya Dharma, one of the important qualities is large-heartedness, largeness of spirit, generosity, broad-mindedness, having no karpanya dosha, not a miserliness of character or quality. And as part of that, chivalrous in nature, as part of that, one who has received a training in weapons would not act or offend someone who is a commoner, who is not capable of defending oneself. So that is considered a violation of dharma. And in this case, clearly Ekalavya had violated dharma because he had offended a harmless barking dog, all just because he was irritated. You cannot use supreme weaponry for your whims and fancies, where just because you are irritated, you use it against someone who is not capable of defending oneself. So that is the reason why Guru Dronacharya looks at the context. He is a prince of Nishada. So Ekalavya is no commoner. He is a prince of Nishada. But Nishadas don't follow the Kshatriya code of honor. And in that society, clearly Guru Dronacharya recognizes that. And when that is the case, whatever knowledge empowers Prince of Nishadas, that is sufficient. That is considered sufficient. One need not have access to knowledge beyond that. It is like, for example, even now in modern times, for example, nuclear technology is not given to everybody. The knowledge of nuclear technology is a closely guarded, we can call it secret or knowledge, which should not be accessed by anybody and everybody, because it could even be utilized by a terrorist. And that would be a problem for the world, because one would not have the discrimination to understand where to apply it and where not to apply it. So appropriate application of knowledge is considered very important. And a teacher is empowered to test the students' appropriate orientation, orientation to apply that knowledge and assess where their judgment lacks. So this was a clear lack of judgment, and hence Guru Dronacharya found it fit to disempower his student Ekalavya, who himself claimed that he was a student. So this act of disempowering, you can see this is a complex context where the questions that are commonly raised in everybody's mind when we introspect. Was this the right thing to do? Because one having such Guru Bhakti, was this the right thing to do? But then at that time, it's not just Guru Bhakti. Ekalavya was devoted to his teacher, no doubt.
And it's also the larger context of ahimsa as well.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the very key aspects in terms of understanding what is himsa and what is ahimsa. When one engages in war, that is looked at as a larger protection of the nation.
And protection of dharma.
But if one engages in violence against other human beings or other living beings, then that is himsa, right?
And that is treated as per the law of the land.
Absolutely. Right now, even if we harm a dog, there are consequences to it. If we harm birds, there is a consequence to it. Snakes, of course, we need to protect the snakes. Even today, there are strict regulations as to how we treat animals and all that. Yeah. There are organizations that protect the rights of animals.
And that is governed by the law of the nation.
Yes. So a soldier basically can be at the borders and defend using weapons, but cannot come and harm, a very silent dog there. So there are nuances like that. However, we try to relate it to the modern context. by giving contemporary examples. Those were different times also. When you were talking about generosity, I'm also reminded of this, especially Kshatriyas and generosity. I'm reminded of this incident where, Karna, when there was this tournament that was happening, where Arjuna was invited to, all the students of Dronacharya were invited to exhibit their talent. And there was also this Karna who had come here, who was so excited to exhibit his talent. But then he was offended because everybody said, you're a charioteer's son and you're not fit for this tournament. But then, Duryodhana was generous. That is what Karna perceived, that he was so generous in offering him the kingdom of Anga or Anga Desha and making him the king there. Now that he has the authority, now that he's a Kshatriya and rules a kingdom, he now has the right to participate in the tournament. But there is also, in terms of Duryodhana's unique quality, in terms of how he brings everybody under his umbrella. As long as they are below him, he's sort of okay with them. But once they start going up or exhibit qualities that are above him, then he gets offended by that.
So in fact, it's beautifully mentioned how Duryodhana would feel insulted if the sun shines bright. So that shows a very unique nature, where anybody, even the most exceptional people, as long as they are under him, he is fine. Anybody who exceeds him or his equal, that is a little problematic for him. And that he displays throughout the Mahabharata, it's highlighted. And that's where we also understand what are the consequences of attitudes or worldviews that people possess. And that too, especially people in position of power. Mahabharata clearly points towards appropriate qualities to be cultivated by those aspiring for leadership positions, especially by everybody for sure, but especially those who have a larger footprint in terms of their actions having a direct impact on a larger mass of people. Those are the typical leaders. Them having certain specific qualities are considered very important. A large-heartedness of spirit, spirit of non-violence, or non-violence is also in terms of using appropriate, authority or power, exercising it appropriately. Not being, not giving into irritation or anger. Because a leader gets angry or gives into irritation at the drop of a hat, that's going to be a big problem for everybody, because their actions will affect a larger mass of people. So not giving into irritation or anger, but at the same time, being able to control the enemy, where the enemy is, afraid, or it generates fear in the hearts of the enemy when the leader is charged up. So these seem mutually exclusive qualities or mutually contradictory qualities. But actually, when we look at life, we clearly see it is of multidimensional nature. It's not unidimensional. So under certain circumstances, one should not get angry, no matter what. With one's own people, one cannot afford to get angry. That is what is called praja. In the Mahabharata, it's beautifully illustrated in Bhishma Niti, where Raja Yudhishthira is advised by Bhishma that a Raja should treat his praja, his people, as a woman treats the child that she is pregnant with. So a woman's awareness would constantly, be in such a manner that the child in the womb is not affected. It's always keeping that in mind that the actions would be regulated. Similarly, a Raja has to regulate one's action, by which the Praja's well-being is always at the foremost. It's Praja first approach, if we can say, for a leader. So a leader has this, needs to have this quality of humility when it comes to one's own people, and needs to have this, question of, this trait of authority and evoking the fear, evoking fear in the hearts of the enemies. Again, philosophically speaking, it might seem like, come on, can there be, things like enemies in the modern reality? But we see when you grow up, even in a corporate career, your actions would be perceived along, positive lines by some people. The same actions can be perceived along negative lines by others. So evoking diverse kinds of, responses. And people get into a hardline mode where they could constantly perceive you as a threat, thereby trying to subjugate you. So this is commonly seen even in corporate culture or in a normal society. This ideally should not be seen within a family, because a family, it is recommended that one follows a sahaja dharma. Sahaja means, what can be called a friendly, good-hearted approach. That is the idea of a family. But when we look at professional approaches, there is the appropriate application of niti, which is considered very essential. That's where a leader, what kind of attitude they possess and display becomes very important. So apparently contradictory qualities that we are discussing, that again is not contradictory. It's appropriate application. One quality comes to the fore. It becomes a priority under certain circumstances. Other quality becomes a priority or comes to the fore under certain other circumstances. So that is beautifully, captured. And this, when understood, we understand, what the leader, the world view that they adopt is going to have a significant impact on the praja, on the people. And there, Duryodhana's attitude clearly showed, he had exceptional qualities, no doubt about it. So he was an exceptional person, exceptional leadership qualities, all of that. But the nuances are captured in such episodes where, imagine a person feeling insulted when the sun shines bright. That's a very difficult quality. If one has that, then that kind of a leader will clearly not be able to, accept the growth of anybody.
So it would basically be that everybody would be under that leader, but there is no way one is going to get qualified to become the next leader or to go above the leader. And this is a blind spot that many leaders have even today. When we say leaders, it's not just political leaders, but it's also in terms of, organizational leaders.
And even at home.
Because the pride of achievements becomes so blinding that they fail to see or help others in their aspirations.
Yeah, and that's where, Duryodhana's quality was also in terms of, if others are glorified in his presence, he would find, he would perceive threat. So one can, start understanding the nature. So this way, the consequences are beautifully captured in the, as we follow the storyline of such worldviews, such attitudes, attitudinal orientations of important people, and how there is a clash of worldviews, of ideologies, of, attitudes of important people. And that leads to a world war. All of this is captured, for the purpose of illustrating principles of dharma. And that's why dharmo rakshati rakshita is a very central message of the Mahabharata. Those who invest in protecting dharma, dharma protects them.
And when we say protecting dharma, we often see in the Mahabharata that it is a very complex thing, because the very thing that we use to protect dharma often destabilizes the whole thing. For example, Vyasa Maharishi and Narada Maharishi, tell Yudhishthira that he might be the cause of a major destruction of one thing of his own brothers and humanity, and a major war in the making. And hence, if you see, in order to protect Dharma, Yudhishthira, always adopts Samaniti or Samaniti, where he's not offending anybody, he is accepting things as it is and all that. But then that very thing becomes the cause of the war, as if the prediction had to come true, kind of. Yeah. So when maintaining Dharma, whatever we use as a tool to maintain Dharma, that itself sometimes destabilizes that Dharma. That is what we see in the Mahabharata. Even we go through this situation. For example, we might be having an organization and we feel that this is how we want to run the organization by these principles in order to protect the goals of the organization. But those very principles themselves can destabilize the goals of the organization. In whatever, there's numerous circumstances one can tell, right? And that is the reason why, if you see, Arjuna in the battlefield goes through this confusion, because he knows that he has to fight in order to establish Dharma. But at the same time, the very war itself can cause such a huge destruction that who will be there to basically glorify him as the king, or who will be there to tell him that, wow, you have protected Dharma. That's a wonderful thing, in the sense who will be there to even enjoy the peace that comes after the war, because everybody is going to be killed. It is Arjuna who is fighting. He is very confident of his power that he would win. And that's a very, fine line where one has to understand the nuances of Dharma. And that is where a person of clarity like Bhagavan Shri Krishna is important, who does not give an answer straight away. He, in fact, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he does give some pointers. But then still, when the doubts or samshaya lies in the mind of the student, that is Arjuna, then he goes on to explain the fundamental principles of life, of who we are not, and also the aspects of war and aspects of the Atman itself, so that one is not confused about what one needs to do and what should not do. And it takes some effort, right? When people come and ask us, like, I have these numerous choices in life, so which one can I take up? One thing is to tell them that choose option A, but we are not sure if the person is ready to face all the consequences, good and bad. One can get huge amount of money, but or at the same time can lose sleep over that money by choosing option A, for example. The other approach is to bring the principles of life in totality, and then may help the person to make the decision on their own. And in that case, they would be convinced about whatever they take up, and they will also have the inner strength to face the consequence of any decision that they take. Yeah. At that time, people will actually start feeling that if it's A, B, or C, it's actually not a problem. One can choose any path and stick on to it, perform well, get good results. And if you choose B also, through your effort, you can get good results. And hence one gains that conviction about life as such. And that way one proceeds further in life. And hence understanding that totality of the context becomes important. That is what the ethical dilemmas that people face in the Mahabharata become important. And also the context of the Bhagavad Gita, the entire Bhagavad Gita becomes relevant over there. Because in order to come out of those dilemmas, we need a full perspective of things. Not just a micro perspective. I'll get 5 rupees if I do this. I'll get this power if I do this. Those are not the only things. But what is the true purpose of taking up anything and doing it? That is what is brought out in the Bhagavad Gita. And hence the ethical dilemmas that one can go through, one can always unentangle oneself out of it by gaining some clarity through it. And that is where we see that how, Arjuna eventually gains clarity, because he is confused about that situation. He does not see that he has to protect Dharma, but then he's thinking about what if my guru, my guru is here, my grandparents, grandfather is here, my, what you can say, my cousins are there, and the entire army is going to die. And how can I manage the whole situation? But then when he realizes that that they have never ceased to exist, nor will cease to exist in the future. They've always, it's a continuum, right? And nobody basically dies. The Atman lives forever. It is inseparable and all that. He understands the philosophical context, and then he gains clarity and he approaches the war. But then eventually there are consequences of the war also.
Yeah.
And Yudhishthira is in deep pain, looking at the amount of damage that has been done in the war. And he's seeking for prayashchitta. So that is what the Mahabharata teaches, that every action has a consequence to it. But there are always ways of approaching the action, the consequences of it, and approaching it with intelligence, basically.
Yeah, and one might want to escape consequences.
Yes.
But consequences cannot be escaped. Sometimes there are hard decisions to make. One better get going with it. After proper analysis, after a due analysis, if it's a hard decision to make, one better get ready for the battle, so to speak.
So it was wonderful talking to you all as part of this session. We hope to share more insight in the future sessions. Namaste.
Namaste.